Okay, so postpartum.
God.
I printed out these things from the Mayo Clinic
Yes.
about the difference between the baby blues,
Oh, yeah.
postpartum, and well, why don't you tell
So-
me what? And then the third one was
Postpartum psychosis.
yes.
So first of all, most people think postpartum is postpartum psychosis, which is so wrong. So baby blues happen, they say, and it changes every year, but most roughly it's between 70 and 80% of all women. So that means in the first few weeks after delivery, or in the perinatal stage, which is around birth, you get this like anxiety, concern, mild depression. You can get some restlessness, some agitation. You know, it's super common. Your hormones basically like triple, and then they evacuate your system, and it's just Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in there, right?
Right.
So baby blues, normal. Then there's postpartum depression, and that's about 1 in 100 women will get that. Oh no, I'm sorry, 1 in 10 women will get that.
Right.
Then postpartum psychosis is 1 in 1,000.
Wow.
So that's how rare it is. And that's what you see on the news of like, woman in Texas took her kids to a lake and drowned them one by one. And people freak out about that and they miss the middle. It's like they'll acknowledge the baby blues and they'll say, well, you don't have postpartum psychosis, but they don't touch the middle area.
And what is the middle?
That's postpartum depression.
No, but what is that?
Oh, God. It's baby blues. It could be baby blues extended. It could be more severe than that. You know, I had patients who had massive anxiety, like they've never had in their life, could not sleep, like couldn't sleep because they were waiting for the kid to cry, couldn't sleep because they, you know, wanted to sleep at the same time as the baby, but they were worried about the baby sleeping too soundly and not waking up. I mean, there was no thing that could make them feel better. And then there's this whole terrible choice you have to make with, if you need a class medication that you can't breastfeed with, you have to stop breastfeeding. Well, that makes me less of a mother. Right. So there's all these, you know, instances where you're faced with, this is best for me, but this is not best for my baby. Or this is best for my baby, but it's not best for me. And there's such a balance. And dads can get depressed too. So that is the biggest chunk. Well, most people get the baby blues. The biggest undiagnosed category would be postpartum depression. Right. Which is directly following, which is when I told my OB and they were like, oh, you're fine. It'll clear up.
Well, I'm going to read what this Mayo Clinic says. So baby blues are mood swings, anxiety, sadness, irritability, feeling overwhelmed, crying, reduced concentration, appetite problems, trouble sleeping. And that's pretty much me every day. So do I still have baby blues?
Yeah.
No,
well,
not
technically,
really.
you're still postpartum, right? It's after delivery.
I am.
Yes.
Okay, so postpartum depression is depressed mood or severe mood swings, excessive crying, difficulty bonding with your baby, withdrawing from your family and friends, loss of appetite or eating much more than usual, inability to sleep or sleeping too much, overwhelming fatigue or loss of energy, reduced interest in pleasure and activities you used to enjoy, intense irritability and anger, fear that you're not a good mother, hopelessness, feelings of worthlessness, shame, guilt, or inadequacy, diminished ability to think clearly, concentrate, or make decisions, restlessness, severe anxiety and panic attacks, thoughts of harming yourself or your baby, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide.
I would make two amendments to that.
Okay.
One is, you do not need to feel like you're not bonded with your baby to have postpartum depression. That's a misnomer. Everybody thinks like, well, I'm connected with the baby, I must not be depressed. Not true. Okay. You can have bonded feelings with the baby and they're overly bonded, which causes anxiety through that stage. Another thing is that I don't know if they mentioned this, that you don't have to have postpartum psychosis or postpartum depression right after baby blues. You can be okay for a few weeks, few months, and get it at 7 months post-delivery.
Is that you're shaking your head? Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of people, and then you're thinking, but I was okay.
Yeah. There was no connection. I stopped breastfeeding 3 months ago.
Right.
And you Google it and it's like, as soon as you stop breastfeeding, this could kick in. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
How did you figure out you had it?
There was no denying it.
Well, but
I was having
you get
panic
it
attacks
diagnosed as well? Or were they like, oh, that's
yeah.
just anxiety?
Well, I was having anxiety when I was pregnant, halfway through my pregnancy. And I kept calling my OB and I was having panic attacks where I was wearing my Apple Watch. My heart rate was like 148.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy. So then I'd call my OB. And then finally my OB said to me, he talked to me constantly. And then he goes, you need to see someone. You need to see a cardiologist and you need to see.
Good for him. I'm glad.
He was great. He is great.
You're supposed to always rule out medical issues
He's
first
like,
because they've missed
see a
stuff like that.
cardiologist and then he gave me a referral for a psychiatrist. Yeah. And he was like, I need to make sure it's not your heart first and then figure out if this is something going on with you mentally.
Right.